It's my honor now to invite Roger Tillis to come to the Bema and introduce our speaker for this evening.
It's always a wonderful evening to have here at Temple Beth-El. For those of us who have been here a long time, I was bar mitzvahed from this Bema a few years ago. And I've had lots of wonderful things here at the temple, in this sanctuary downstairs and here. None are more moving and spiritual to me than these Martin Luther King evenings, which I've been running for 25 years. And we've had such incredible speakers here at Temple Beth-El. It was great that Martin Luther King was here in '67, but over the last 25 years, we've had Hakeem Jeffries, we've had John Lewis, the icon, Calvin Butts, and we have with us tonight some from former speakers that have been here. Elaine Gross, who's here, is the head of Erase Racism on Long Island, and a prominent figure and a great speech that we've had. We have with us our state controller and an honorary member of Temple Beth-El. He's been here every single year. Tom DiNapoli. Tom was here. He's here. And prior to coming in, and she had to leave earlier, we had another former speaker for this Martin Luther King service. Attorney General Tish James was here, and a brave woman. Who else do we have here? We have Assemblyman and also almost an honorary member of Temple Beth-El, our neighbor from Glen Cove, Chuck Levine is here. Governor Hochul's representative, I think Joseph Ramirez, was supposed to be here. I don't know if he's here or not. Our supervisor of the town of North Hempstead, Jen DeSana, is here. And I just get great pleasure in seeing people come together like this in our community. It doesn't happen often, and certainly it doesn't happen often enough in our community. So thank you all for coming. I want to introduce a friend of mine that I've known for several years. We got to know each other with a group called Voices for Truth and Humanity, which is a wonderful Long Island group that you ought to know about, that is steeped in trying to make sure that we have Holocaust education in our schools. And from that group, I got a lot of impetus, and I must say I'm very pleased to have, from last year to this year, the Regents of New York, of which I have something to do with, we passed a regulation this year that is bringing Holocaust education into our schools, and have finally fleshed out what was a state mandate to have Holocaust education in the schools, but it was never defined and needs to be strengthened, and we now have best practices for all of our schools in New York State, and that was passed by the Regents in September of last year. And getting to know Bill and other people in the movement to have more Holocaust education has been a very, very fulfilling part of my life. Bill Tinglin is an internationally recognized educator, humanitarian, and advocate for Holocaust remembrance and intercultural dialogue. Throughout his distinguished career, he has established himself as a trusted partner of the global Jewish community dedicated to bringing divides between diverse cultural and ethnic groups. He is an author of many books. I won't go through it now. He's the president and CEO of the School News Nationwide, Tour for Tolerance, and CBL Publishing. They have transformed educational outreach by integrating journalism, cutting-edge technology, and ethical leadership. He actively promotes Holocaust education, ensuring that its vital lessons remain integral to contemporary curricula worldwide. And he is recognized as a real expert and advocate to make sure that we have everybody in this country knowing what happened and could happen again. Bill Tinglin.
I bid you good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am indeed happy to be in your presence. Seeing my good colleagues, my friends, I thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for being here. Temple Beth-El of Great Neck, Rabbi Brian Stoller, Rabbi Megan Brummer, my dear friend, Roger Tellis, esteemed clergy and honored leaders, members of this sacred congregation, my sisters and my brothers, I stand before you this afternoon with humility and purpose. I thank the leadership of Temple Beth-El of Great Neck for welcoming me into this holy space and for dedicating this sacred gathering to the life, the legacy, and the moral vision of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is not merely a commemorative gathering. This is a moral gathering. We are here because memory matters. We are here because truth requires witnesses. And we are here because justice demands participation. Tonight we stand at this intersection of two histories, two narratives shaped by suffering, endurance, and faith. Two people who have known exile and endurance, hatred and hope, loss and resilience. And yet, they are bound together by one enduring moral truth. The moral vision of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Holocaust, and the sacred urgency of memory. Two histories, one moral truth. Dr. King warned us about what he called the fierce urgency of now. He reminded us that history does not wait for our comfort, that justice does not arrive on its own timetable, and that delay in moments of moral crisis itself is a decision. Tonight, history is calling us again. Across the world, anti-Semitism has risen, not quietly, not surely, not subtly, but boldly. We have seen terror unleashed against Israel. We have seen Jewish communities targeted far beyond the Middle East, across continents, across cultures, across generations, driven by the same ancient hatred wearing modern clothing. And history is asking humanity the same question it has asked before. Who will stand when human dignity is under assault? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. understood something essential. Hatred does not survive because it is strong. Hatred survives because good people hesitate. He taught us that injustice is never isolated. Left unchallenged, it spreads. Left unanswered, it deepens. Left unnamed, it becomes normalized. Dr. King reminded us again and again that silence in the moments of moral crisis is not neutrality. It is complicity. Dr. King's moral vision was deeply rooted in Jewish prophetic tradition. When he declared, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream," he was echoing the prophet Amos. When he spoke of the sacred worth of every human being, he was affirming the Jewish truth that every life is created in the image of God. Dr. King did not merely quote the prophets, he answered their call. That is why he rejected anti-Semitism, not conditionally, not strategically, but morally. Because hatred of the Jewish people was never, in his eyes, a Jewish problem. It was a human problem, a moral failure, a warning sign for all humanity. People often ask, Dr. Tinglin, why do you teach? And why do you write about the Jewish people so much? Why do you carry this history so deeply? I speak tonight as a witness and as an educator. For more than 30 years, I've worked alongside Holocaust survivors, African American educators, community, elders, and young people, sharing one essential message: that tolerance is not weakness, that empathy is not optional, and that compassion is the highest expression of moral strength. But today, we are facing a crisis in Holocaust education. For decades, Holocaust education has confronted three undeniable realities. First, students struggle to emotionally connect with the static texts. Second, teachers are constrained by time, training, and resources. And third, our living witness, the survivors are no longer with us in large numbers. Well, we're standing at a critical threshold in history. If we do not modernize how Holocaust studies are taught, we risk losing not just attention, but understanding. Not just facts, but empathy. Not just memory, but meaning. So that is why I created one of humanity's darkest hours, the untold story of the Holocaust. This is not simply a book. It is a learning experience. It was created because traditional textbooks, while historically accurate, they often struggle to speak the language of today's learners. Young people live in a digital world, a world of interaction, sound, visual, and instant response. This book meets students exactly where they are. When you open the book, you are not simply reading a history. You are entering a conversation with the book. Throughout the book, QR codes are embedded directly in the pages. When a student hovers her phone or his phone or tablet over the codes and scans it, survivors' voices begin to speak. Historically, footage opens instantly. Maps, photographs, and timelines come alive. Context is delivered in visual, emotional, but responsible way. There are no apps to download. There are no complicated setup, no technical barriers. The book literally opens a new world. What was once a printed page became a living, breathing classroom, and then something truly transformative happens. The book talks to you. This curriculum includes an interactive chat box and live digital presence that allows students to ask real questions. Why did this happen? What was life like for children my age? What happened after the liberation? Can you explain this in a simple way? And the book responds with accurate, historical, grounded, age-appropriate answers delivered in a respectful language. Students no longer passive readers. They are active participants. Technology, when used responsibly, does not replace memory. It protects it. But my work did not begin with technology. It began with people. It began with my very first encounter with a Holocaust survivor. Her name, Sally Frischberg, a Holocaust survivor. But more than that, she became my mentor, my moral guide. She became my teacher. Sally was only 8 years old when her childhood was stolen. She and her family were forced into hiding in the attic of a Polish farmer's barn in Poland. Not for days, not for weeks, but for more than 2 years. Imagine that, a child living in silence, in darkness, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too loudly. After that, a single sound could mean death. 2 years in an attic, 2 years of fear, 2 years of hunger. My Sally. 2 years of waiting for the world to remember them. Eventually, the Allied troops rescued Sally and her family. But survival did not mean the end of cruelty. On a ship traveling to America, Sally was assigned the bottom of a bunk bed. When she sat down, an older Polish woman looked at her and said in Polish, "Who told you to sit on my bed, you dirty Jew? Hitler should have killed all of you." And in a moment, on the ship, we thought it meant to carry hope, but the poison of hatred followed her. But then, something holy happened. A Black American woman saw Sally. She did not speak Polish, she did not speak Yiddish, but she spoke the universal language of compassion. She picked up Sally, held her in her arms, and rocked her. Sally said, "I didn't understand a word she said because I didn't speak English, but I understood love," Sally said. That moment bridged two histories. That moment revealed one moral truth. Sally came to America, she learned English, she went to college, and she became a teacher, a school teacher at Fort Hamilton High School in Brooklyn. She taught at Fort Hamilton and she retired. Her life became an act of resistance. Her classroom became a sanctuary of memory on her story more than 30 years ago. Revolutionized my life. Never met a Holocaust survivor before in my life until I met Sally. She taught me the Holocaust education is not about dates. She said it's about dignity, not about numbers alone, but about names. Sally and I have won many awards and traveled many institutions. We have seen more than 100,000 students, she and I. Television, radio, all over. Something happened again to this young man behind this podium. Samuel Bykoff, the world's youngest Holocaust survivor, came into my life. Samuel is not just a survivor. Mr. Bykoff became my mentor, my guide, the man I call father, the man I call pop. Samuel is one of only 127 survivors of Bogdanovka, Ukraine massacre, where more than 54,600 Jews, men, women, and children were murdered in less than 14 days. I was there. Samuel took me around and he showed me everything. 14 days, 54,000 plus people in Bogdanovka. When this black American young man from Brooklyn, New York, traveled with Samuel in Ukraine, and ladies and gentlemen, I stood at that blood-soaked ground, history stopped being abstract. I saw and felt where families were lined up. I saw where children were shot. I saw where the blood-soaked earth itself seemed to cry out. I broke down. Samuel, who had endured the unimaginable, put his hand on my shoulders and comforted me. In that moment, I understood. Once you stand at that ground, silence is no longer an option. Memory becomes a command. So from memory to action, that obligation led me to another question in history has avoided. Who financed? Who financed the machinery of destruction? Who financed Hitler's war? My team and I got busy researching and came up with a 12-volume series called The Trilogy, consisting of The Vault, The War Machine, Blitzkrieg, and The Hidden Economy. Blitzkrieg revealed how the Nazi Germany seized control of more than 116,000 Europeans' banking networks, belonging to more than 270 million people, stripped Jewish assets, and laundered stolen wealth, fueling genocide through calculated economic domination. This is not entertainment. It is a moral autopsy of evil. Because when history is fully revealed, it does more than remember the past. It shapes the future. In closing, in Jewish tradition, memory is sacred. It is not passive. It is moral. But the king understood that truth deeply. Memory does not imprison us. Memory does not imprison us in the past, but it guards the future. So tonight, I issue a clear call. We must confront anti-Semitism immediately, unequivocally. We must teach our children truth, not convenience. We must reject selective outrage, because hatred anywhere threatens justice everywhere. So let us leave this place remembering that justice requires courage, that memory requires action, and that dignity requires defense. May we be guardians of memory, may we be builders of unity, and may we be worthy of the future we seek to protect. And may we go forward together steadfast, courageous, morally awake. Thank you so very much.
That was incredible. That's so inspiring. Thank you for the honor of teaching us.